Hey, yo, Fro Wrestling Podcast listeners, welcome to the show where we don't sing it, we bring it. Help us out and click subscribe to show your support. While you're at it, if you're a YouTube user, make sure you enable notifications so they let you know every time a new episode of the Fro Wrestling Podcast goes up. Guys, let's talk. Remember the days when you were always ready to go? Now you can increase your performance and get that extra confidence in bed. Listen up, BlueChew.com. That's blue like the color blue. Blue Chew brings you the first chewable with the same FDA active ingredients as Viagra and Cialis, so you know they work. You can take them anytime, day or night, even on a full stomach, and since they're chewable, they work up to twice as fast as a pill, so you can be ready whenever the opportunity arises. When I try Blue Chew, I really noticed something extra. Now, this isn't just for guys who can't perform, it's for any guy who wants extra function to enhance their performance in the bedroom. Blue Chew is prescribed online and shipped straight to your door. It's in a discreet package, so no in-person doctor visits, no waiting in the pharmacy. The best of all, no more awkwardness. They're made in the United States, and since Blue Chew prepares and ships direct, they're cheaper than a pharmacy. Right now, we've got a special deal for our listeners. Visit BlueChew.com and get your first shipment absolutely free when you use our special promo code FROPODCAST. Just pay the $5 shipping fee. Again, that's Blue, B-L-U-E, Chew.com, promo code FROPODCAST to try it free. Blue Chew is the better, cheaper, faster choice, and we thank them for sponsoring the podcast. If you want to become a member of the Fro Wrestling Podcast family, you want your name in the shoutouts, check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/Fro Wrestling Podcast and sign up today. Don't forget our loyalty rewards program that allows any $15 contributor to co-host an episode of Going Live with me, and our $7.50 a month contributors get entered into a drawing for one winner to also co-host an episode of one of our live shows. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this live episode of the Fro Wrestling Podcast. We'll be taking your questions, comments, concerns, anything you want to talk about through any streaming service that you are currently using. Put your questions, comments right into the chat feature, and I will see them pop up on my screen. We can get you in the show right away, like my buddy John, the sports guy, tuning in from Alpine, Texas. John, welcome to the show. Always love having you. If you are new to the Fro Wrestling Podcast, you've never tuned in before, make sure you check out our homepage, frowrestling.com. It's a great place to preview all the topics coming to the show, come up with questions, things you want to talk about. Let us know what's going on in the world of wrestling that you're hearing about, and we'll get you into the show. Make sure you tell us who you are so we can give you credit for your contribution. And if you want to get an episode that's coming up in the future, you want to get some topic in, you're not quite sure what question you want to ask, that's okay. We've got the Fro Wrestling Sound Off line, 267-642-1160. You can give us questions and comments there in a talk to text service. That's right. You talk, it texts it to us, and we will get to as many of those as we can in a future episode. So while you're at it, if you go to frowrestling.com, you want to check out our latest news pieces, go to my blog in Fro's Corner at the top of the page. And if you're into the independent wrestling scene, look, we all got to support indie wrestling. The indie wrestling events tab is at the top of frowrestling.com with shows coming to an area near you. Let's talk at the top of the hour, the big conversation of the day, Chris Jericho being blackballed by WWE, no longer allowed to have talents appear on the Chris Jericho podcast. He is not allowed to bring talents in, do his episodes of his podcast. He's not even being mentioned in previously taped episodes. The Edge and Christian podcast, they're editing references to Chris Jericho out. Other shows that he's performed on for WWE, he's being edited out. All this because he is signed on with All Elite Wrestling, and for whatever reason, it's almost like Vince McMahon is afraid of All Elite Wrestling. He's putting all this effort into preventing anything related to Chris Jericho from being discussed. And it's almost a shame that when you have the kind of storied career that Chris Jericho has, and you've done so much for WWE, and you know he has, you can go on YouTube any day of the week and you can pull up, most amazing, shocking returns and things like that, and you'll see Chris Jericho's first appearance at WWE when he did the face-off with The Rock, and they were cutting the promos with The Rock for the very first time. When you see him come back at the Royal Rumbles and places like that, always a huge reaction. He has meant so much to that brand, and now that he's gone and signed with All Elite Wrestling, we know that there was always almost like this unspoken mantra between he and Vince McMahon that if it was in North America, he was wrestling for WWE and WWE only. Well, then he went and did the thing for New Japan, and I guess maybe, that's not the United States. It didn't really infringe too much. He got Vince's blessing, and then when he got done with the New Japan thing, the opportunity to work All In came along, and then he's in All In. He shows up as a surprise appearance, and it really put that show into the stratosphere. It was a great show top to bottom to begin with, but it gave it that extra layer of shock and awe that really set that show apart. Now he gets the opportunity to come back to WWE, and instead of doing so, signs with All Elite Wrestling, where he's going to be there for the foreseeable future, multiple years, and he's not going back to WWE anytime soon. And let's face it, one of these days, I hope that somebody takes control of WWE and realizes the benefit of acknowledging the competition, embracing the competition, indoctrinating the competition into your programming in some way, because it really does add a layer of excitement to the wrestling product. The way things are going right now, Vince is going back to like that old school WWF mentality where we didn't even acknowledge the competition. And that's a problem because we had made so much progress. I don't know if anybody remembers this, but when AJ Styles debuted at the Royal Rumble, when he's walking down the aisle, the commentators mentioned he's a former IWGP World Heavyweight Champion. That's a championship that Brock Lesnar held. That's the quote that they said during that broadcast. They were willing to identify New Japan Pro Wrestling, willing to speak about the IWGP Championship, and now this is the opposite. They should be embracing Chris Jericho's character because he's a WWE guy. They made him what he is. Yes, was he in WCW? Of course he was. ECW? Absolutely. Many other places, Smoky Mountain, etc. But he never had an impact like he did for WWE. So instead of shunning somebody who's meant so much to your brand, who literally is a guaranteed Hall of Famer someday, and if he's not because he signed with All Elite Wrestling, then WWE just totally misses the mark. But the fact that this guy's doing something new and exciting and fresh with All Elite Wrestling, right? Let's face it, the card, the total talent pool in WWE is stacked to begin with. Where would you put a Chris Jericho in WWE right now anyways? It's almost like when Rey Mysterio comes back, they get elevated right away to the top of the card again because of their name brand recognition, but then other stars who've been emerging get pushed down the card, and WWE needs to do less of that, not more. Jericho going to All Elite Wrestling, that helps the brand, that promotes the brand, it makes things a little better for that brand, and that's something we should want to see have happen. We don't want to see WWE, it's almost like it's a Chris Benoit situation where we're not going to acknowledge that guy anymore. We're not going to talk about that guy anymore. And that's ludicrous, especially after everything he's done. He was on the Sam Roberts podcast talking about how he's been totally blackballed by WWE. He's not allowed to have WWE guests on his podcast. He can't be on any of the shows that have been recorded for WWE, etc., and it's absolutely ludicrous. In other news, before we get into any of the other fun stuff, just a sad note. The long relationship Terry Funk has had with his wife Vicky has been well documented. If you watch the documentary about Terry Funk the first time he was going to retire, you got to see Terry Funk's wife Vicky, and they're just an adorable couple. And sadly today it was announced on Twitter, Facebook, all the social media that Terry Funk's wife has passed away. And so our love and condolences go out to Terry Funk and his entire family. It's such an adorable couple. She has stuck it through with this guy through thick and thin, through 9,000 retirement ceremonies and everything else. She's always been there for him, and now for this to happen now, it's just sad. It's really a tough situation. So like I said, well wishes and thoughts with Terry Funk today. Hopefully he bounces back strong. That guy I don't think is ever going to retire. I think he's just going to be a part of it forever. And I know he's got a great wrestling fraternity to rally around him, and hopefully Terry gets back on his feet quickly. I want to address WWE Raw this Monday night. I've seen go-home shows where WWE totally craps the bed and they don't do a very good job. This is not the case this week. This week's show is going to be stacked. I mean, the card is like a who's who. It's almost like a mini WrestleMania at Raw. It was announced earlier today that Aleister Black and Ricochet are going to challenge the Revival for the Tag Team Championships, and that was like a headline story on a lot of the news outlets, the e-wrestling news, the Wrestling Incs, and all that. But that's not even the whole story. The real story is, look at the whole card for Raw. Yes, you have the Tag Team Championship match. You also have an 8-woman tag team match that sees the return of Beth Phoenix teaming with Natalya and the Raw Women's Tag Team Champions Sasha Banks and Bayley. I shouldn't have said Raw Women's Tag Team, WWE Women's Tag Team Champions. They're going to take on Nia Jax, Tamina, and the Iconics on Raw. Batista's coming back to address Triple H. Brock Lesnar's going to be there to confront Seth Rollins. There's a 6-woman tag team match, the Riot Squad, against Charlotte Flair, Becky Lynch, and Ronda Rousey. ought to be very strange for that match. You know there's going to be some major physicality there. There'll be all the lead up, the final build to WrestleMania. And to me, one of the really great matches that's on the card, and hopefully they don't botch this one like they did last week on SmackDown with Kurt Angle's final SmackDown match. This week, his final match on Raw, Kurt Angle's going to face Rey Mysterio, which I think is a headline quality match. And it really does set Raw up to be an amazing go-home show. Congratulations, WWE Booking, on putting together, at least on paper, a main event pay-per-view quality lineup. Let's just hope they deliver on the in-ring action and get away from the mics as much as they can. I know they'll be talking with Brock and Seth. I know they'll be talking with some of the other angles. But let's hope they deliver on the in-ring action, because there's some promising matches on that card. John Cena, it's been announced, has definitely signed to do a match at WrestleMania, but we don't yet know who, and there's been absolutely no build whatsoever to his match. So now here's the deal. It's being reported that it is not to be a fill-in opponent for Kurt Angle, so that supposedly is off the table. Who's left? Who else is out there that doesn't have a match yet? Now, last year, there was some interaction with he and Elias. Elias, we know, is going to be there for a musical performance, which I think is such a waste of an incredible character. But we know he's doing that. Maybe that's where The Undertaker shows up and obliterates Elias. I don't know. We really need to see what Cena and what The Undertaker potentially are going to be doing at the show. There's a lot of directions they could go with this. But at the end of the day, with no build for John Cena to be there, it's kind of strange. It's WrestleMania season. This is when you emphasize your main attractions. Or maybe, do we have a rematch from last year? John Cena versus The Undertaker, totally unplanned, unannounced, and just have them go at it. And you don't have to give them a 40-minute match or a 30-minute match or even a 20-minute match. But 10 or 15 would be nice to make up for last year's insane debacle that really shouldn't even have counted as a match. Have to wait and see. Definitely cool to get an update, though, that John Cena should be at WrestleMania. Another thing we're not going to see, apparently, WWE is sounding like the Evolution pay-per-view, the all-women's show, doing a second one is pretty much a no-go. They don't want to go that route. Instead, what they're looking to do is they are trying to clear, through the Saudi Arabian ministry, the opportunity for Raw and SmackDown women to perform in Saudi Arabia for the first time ever. This would be in place of the Evolution pay-per-view. Now, I'm not in favor of that. I'm in favor of them going to Saudi Arabia. Don't get me wrong there. I think that's a huge amount of social change, and WWE could literally be affecting millions of women living in Saudi Arabia if you open the eyes of the people who live there and give them a different perspective on how to treat women. I'm all for that, but I'm not in favor of canceling the Evolution pay-per-view because I think that sent a message of equality for the women. It was actually in the news today. Michelle McCool was speaking out that if the women are main eventing WrestleMania, they should be paid the same level as the men at WrestleMania, and that is absolutely true. Becky Lynch is the #1 attraction in the world of professional wrestling right now. She should be getting paid exactly the same as Brock Lesnar, as Seth Rollins, as Roman Reigns, Finn Balor, John Cena, anybody else who's a high-paid ticket in WWE. Now, they reported last week that she did get a new contract offer, and I'm sure it's a substantial raise, but it needs to be on par with all these other people. She is the merchandise mover. She is the hot button topic in WWE, and they need to act fast to make sure that other talents don't see that discrepancy, if there is one, and act on it and go elsewhere. Because let's face it, what keeps you with WWE? Paying the biggest bucks, biggest exposure. If All Elite Wrestling walks in and gives equal pay to the women as the men, and they give the kind of money that WWE is not necessarily willing to give the female talents, then what does that do to their roster in the next couple years? Dustin Rhodes in the news this week. News broke that his WWE contract had run out. He came out on Twitter and totally refuted that, saying that all the stuff you read online is BS. He's still with WWE, and there's nothing more to report. Now, if his contract had run out, and they were planning some special attraction at All Elite Wrestling's Double or Nothing pay-per-view, he probably wouldn't say anything. If you notice, Cody Rhodes is not booked to face anybody in particular at Double or Nothing. He's supposed to have a special opponent. What more special opportunity would it be than for Cody to take on his brother Dustin Rhodes at Double or Nothing. I'd be all in favor of it. It's a match we really wanted to have a few years ago at WrestleMania. Never really came to fruition. There was some teasing of it here and there, but they never really got the opportunity to really show what they can do. Dustin Rhodes, for his age, can still go in the ring very, very well. He is incredibly talented, a super underappreciated talent through his entire career. I think the highest level of respect he ever got was 2 times. Once, when he was originally Goldust and got the Intercontinental Championship, and he looked like a legitimate threat to the World Championship scene until they buried him for people like Ahmed Johnson. And then the other time was a little younger than that, when he was in WCW, I want to say like 91, 92-ish, when he was feuding with Ravishing Rick Rude over the United States Championship. That was the only 2 times I considered him to be a legitimate top-level star, and not knocking those opportunities. He should have been a main event star multiple times over. If he was promoted correctly and allowed to perform in the ring to his abilities, he would have been, and everybody seemed to pull back. Maybe because he was Dusty's kid, I don't know. But I will tell you something. Dustin Rhodes, this is WWE WrestleMania season. We're on the cusp of the Hall of Fame. Dustin Rhodes, forget Dusty, forget Cody, forget Goldust. Dustin Runnels is a first ballot Hall of Famer to me because of all the incredible contributions he's made to the wrestling industry. And I kind of hope that he is done with WWE so he can have that match with Cody at Double or Nothing. I think that would be amazing. But if we're to believe what Dustin Rhodes says, that's not the case. He's still with WWE. We'll have to wait and see. Impact Wrestling, and they had their show Against All Odds this week, and a couple reactions. One, it was announced that the Impact Wrestling Hall of Famer is going to be returning. Gail Kim is coming back to the ring to take on Tessa Blanchard in what can only be considered a dream match. I think that's incredible. I think that Impact Wrestling has been putting on incredible programming for months and months and months. Now, here's the opposite side of that analysis. The issue I have is as we reported last week, Allie, former female talent of Impact Wrestling, is now leaving to go to All Elite Wrestling. You have to write her off television. There's a lot of ways that they could do that, but they chose to literally murder her character on this show. Somebody stabs her in the throat with like Freddy Krueger-like blades, and she dies. I think that's an incredibly horrible way to promote her leaving the company, and I'm just not a fan at all. And I think that, I understand you got to write her off television, but do it. Give her an injury angle. Give her something. Write her out. She stayed. She knew she was leaving. They weren't going to renew her contract all the way back in January. She stuck around to be loyal to the company, and then they do this ridiculous thing with Rosemary and people getting their throats slashed and all this insane stuff. Kevin Sullivan showed up. Sinister Minister was there. It was James Mitchell. It was ridiculous. When you're building momentum the way Impact has been lately, you don't go down that route. You just don't. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. I see John the Sports Guy has a question out there. He said, could WWE have an all-women show during the week? I would not be opposed to that. I really wouldn't. I think that they have, you give 205 Live their own show and it's almost no viewership. I think if you put, Becky and Charlotte and Ronda Rousey and all these people into one show each week and really let them focus on their storylines and give them a substantial piece of time. It doesn't have to be a 3-hour show. You can give an hour. Give them 2 hours even. You could build a much better show than what you got right now on both brands combined, because you would have more stage time to develop and cultivate long-standing feuds that we don't currently get to see. It's something I think is missing from WWE's current programming. And they've announced this week that they're going to have the WWE Women's Battle Royal at WrestleMania. That's where they're going to cram everybody who's on the female roster that they can't figure out anything intelligent to do with them, even though they've had all year to plan. So Asuka's already been confirmed for there, and Lacey Evans, and just about everybody. It's like a who's who of WWE female talent that are being completely underused and undersupported. Carmella, Naomi, all those people are going to be in the Battle Royal. And we knew that was probably coming, but I feel like it's such an insult, especially to somebody like Asuka, who has done so much since coming to WWE and been accepting of whatever angle they've booked for her, and she still goes out and puts on amazing matches. We watched her lose the SmackDown Women's Championship last week in what can only be described as an incredible match, and then she gets thrown into a Battle Royal, because that's the most substantial thing they could have thought of. In the year that the women are going to headline Mania, they're going to get the main event, they're going to get a tag team match, it's a fatal 4-way, and they're going to get a Battle Royal. That's it. That's all they're going to get. There's going to be 17, 18 matches on the show, and the women are going to get 3? What kind of equality is that? WWE's trying to send the right message. I get what they're doing, but you're not sending enough of the message. The women have earned the right and the opportunity to be featured just like the men. And you have to find a way to do that in a way that is equitable and the way that brings eyes to the product. And a battle royal is not it. You know you can't focus on what half of these people are doing in the battle royal. That's why they're wasting Braun Strowman with this comedic nonsense they're doing with him too. So hopefully they figure this out next year and get some decent storylines for some of their better talent, because this is a waste. Vince McMahon was in the news this week. He sold $270 million in WWE stock. He still owns over 80% of the stock in the company, so it's not like he's ever going to be in danger of not being in control of the company anymore. But he sold that stock to help fund the XFL. News came out this week that Alliance of American Football may be going out of business, maybe going bankrupt already, because investors wanted a bigger return and didn't get it yet. And that is good news for the XFL. The Alliance of American Football needed support from the NFL. They wanted NFL players that were, cut from teams, not doing so well, this and that. They wanted the NFL to funnel talent to them, and that was something the NFL wasn't worried about. Vince McMahon, that's not what he wants to do. He's going to give set contracts to everybody. Everybody makes roughly the same amount of money, and he's going to bring people in and make it competitive. He doesn't need the NFL. What he needs is bona fide stars, and if the Alliance of American Football proved anything, you could take stars that are no longer stars, and you could give them new life and new productivity and make it attractive to an audience. The ratings for the AAF have not been terrible. I mean, they're not NFL level, but there's their first year. They still did pretty well. Trent Richardson has 10 touchdowns. The guy couldn't catch a cold and couldn't run through the middle on anybody in the NFL, but he's doing it. He's killing it there, and now that league's in danger of folding. I hope that Vince McMahon putting all this effort into the XFL is very successful. Give us an alternative for football. Somebody who may be done with football, Rob Gronkowski, showed up at a WWE charity event this week, was actually featured in this group photo. Braun Strowman was there, various other wrestling talents, and all these people involved in this charity event, and Gronk was there with them. Stephanie McMahon was giving him a shout out this week, congratulating him on his career. Triple H, same thing. All these people really wanting him to come into WWE. Everybody knows Mojo Rawley is huge friend of his, is very much in favor of him coming there. Maybe they do it. Maybe at WrestleMania he shows up at the Battle Royal. Heck, what if he shows up at the Battle Royal and wins the Battle Royal? Talk about bringing mainstream attention to your program. There's nothing going to come out of the men's Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal that matters. But if you put Gronkowski out there, he was in the Battle Royal a couple years ago, not as a participant, but getting involved with Jinder Mahal. Do it again, but have him win it. And have it be the way you kickstart his career. He doesn't have to be a full-time performer. I saw people arguing online the other day, Facebook, Twitter, and all different sources, saying about how, his body's been banged up and he can't possibly. Moose, TNA Impact Wrestling star Moose, was saying his body's been through so much he can't be a wrestler. He can wrestle. He just can't be an everyday wrestler. I don't think WWE would want him to be a touring full-time performer. He's a special attraction. You bring him in for big pay-per-views. You bring him in for short segments on Raw or SmackDown. That's what you do with somebody like Rob Gronkowski. Bring big eyes to your programming. You're getting ready to go over to Fox Television. You're getting ready for SmackDown to become a lead show. Well, that's one of the ways you can do it. Fox is all about real sport and the reality of things. Gronkowski makes it legit. He's a legitimate athlete. You could really bring some eyes to your program. I hope they do it. Which match is going to main event Double or Nothing? It was announced this week that the headline match will be the rematch from Wrestle Kingdom last year. Chris Jericho versus Kenny Omega will be the main event for Double or Nothing. And in Double or Nothing news, if you are still looking for tickets to Double or Nothing, I know a guy. Go to frowrestling.com. There's an icon at the top of the page where you can click right now and get into an auction on eBay for a set of 2, 4, or 6 tickets to go to All Elite Wrestling Double or Nothing. They're up for you at the auction right now. Check that out. There's a possible stipulation being added to the WrestleMania main event. We already know it's going to be Charlotte versus Becky versus Ronda for the Raw Women's Championship. And we also already know that Charlotte won the SmackDown Women's Championship. The rumor is they may be making a change to the match, making it what they would call a winner-takes-all match. If you pin a champion, you win their championship belt. Now, if Ronda pins Charlotte, she could walk out with both championship belts. If Charlotte pins Ronda, she could walk out with both belts. But the more interesting thing to me about that is it adds a layer. where Becky could pin Ronda, and then she, Charlotte, and the WWE Women's Tag Team Champions, Sasha and Bayley, the 4 horsewomen of WWE, could stand tall at the end of the night in this emotional send-off where the 4 of them hold up their championship belts in total domination of the women's division in WWE. Think that would be perfect if they do plan on ever doing this 4 horsewoman versus horsewoman dream scenario that we've been talking about for forever, a couple years now. So, possibility, but it looks like they may be making that a winner-take-all match. WWE also, in our final topic for the evening, announced the Worlds Collide matches for WrestleMania Axxess. These are going to be some unique opportunities to see talents wrestle each other that don't typically get that chance. For example, on Thursday, April 4th, it's NXT stars versus NXT alumni. So you're going to see Roderick Strong versus Tyler Breeze. Dominic Dijakovic versus Harper from the Bludgeon Brothers. Sanity is going to take on the Undisputed Era, and Cassius Ohno is going to take on Aiden English. When you go to Friday on the 5th, you have 2 sessions. You're going to have Cruiserweights collide. You're going to have Tyler Bate versus Brian Kendrick, Akira Tozawa versus Jordan Devlin, Flash Morgan Webster and Mark Andrews versus Arya Daivari and Mike Kanellis. So there's all these matches that are very unique. NXT, NXT UK, 205 Live, all getting involved there. On Saturday the 6th, they're going to have a set of UK NXT tapings. They're going to have 3 sessions. They haven't announced the matches for that, but definitely going to be Impact action. You have Brand Battle on Sunday, April 7th. 2 20 Superstar Battle Royals, one for the men and one for the women. The 2 Battle Royals, they'll have somebody will win that will come from either NXT or NXT UK, and they will be able to, and also 205 Live, and the winners are going to go into the Battle Royals, the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal and the Women's Battle Royal at WrestleMania. So, and the interesting thing is, the one day after the ladies' main event WrestleMania, there's another event on Monday the 8th from noon to 4, where the top female superstars from NXT, NXT UK, Raw, SmackDown, they're all going to collide. The matches, Io Shirai versus Sonya Deville, Toni Storm versus Nikki Cross versus Bianca Belair, Piper Niven versus Zelina Vega, Candice LeRae versus Kaylee Ray. They're loading this up. It went from where it was like the Hall of Fame ceremony Friday night, WrestleMania Sunday, to now you've got the Hall of Fame, NXT TakeOver, WrestleMania that's like 8 hours long. WrestleMania Axxess is like 5 days long now. Runs all the way into Monday. You have Raw, you have SmackDown. Like, WWE just dominates the globe for like an entire week during WrestleMania season now. And now with the conversation of maybe expanding WrestleMania to a 2-day event, could be incredibly, incredibly insane the amount of wrestling we get in the near future at a WrestleMania show. That's all the time we have for this episode. Check back with us next episode. We'll run down all the latest wrestling news and rumors. Special thanks, as always, goes out to bensound.com and purpleplanet.com. They produce all the music and sound effects we use in our shows. Today's podcast is sponsored in part by Beazle Games. Bringing a new friend to family game night is easy with sketchy people. Showcase your artistic side in this new game from Beazle Games by going to frowrestling.com and clicking the icon in the middle of the screen to pick up your copy today. And to alleyrepair.com. Contact Alley Repair today for servicing of all your classic skee ball, pinball, and arcade game needs. Are you sick and tired of dropping $60 to $100 for the latest, greatest wrestling video game? Stop immediately. Go to Wrestler Unstoppable, available exclusively through Facebook. Create your wrestler, sign contracts, get involved in storylines, headline pay-per-views, even build your own corporation, all included in Wrestler Unstoppable, available to all Facebook users, totally free. If you're looking for your next career move, you're considering college, maybe university life, or you just need some formal training for your next career decision, go to our sister website at frolifeplanning.com for all your higher education needs, as Fro Life Educational Planning is for today, for tomorrow, and for life with Fro Life. I'm Fred Froelich, better known as Mr. Fro. I want to thank you for taking a few moments with us today. If you're looking for more wrestling news and rumors, go to www.tsj101sports.com for their latest articles on the world of professional wrestling. Go to my blog, In Fro's Corner, located at frowrestling.com for my pieces. And make sure you support indie wrestling. Go to the indie events tab at frowrestling.com and check out a show coming to an area near you. You want that one-to-one experience of an indie show. Until next time, take care, everybody. Have a great night.